Now, one thing I've been wanting to talk to Akon about for a long time was the whole Lighting of Africa thing. Yeah. And I feel like it gets so little publicity. You know, so let's have a real conversation about that, because you grew up in Senegal, West Africa, and I heard you actually grew up without electricity.
Yeah, none. No electricity, no running water. I mean, it was one of them, like, when I came to the United States and I saw how poverty was, you know, accepted here, like the projects, or what they claim to be projects, bro, Vlad, like I thought they was living in luxury compared to what poverty is back home. So it was kind of one of them things where I couldn't understand why people didn't appreciate that. You know what I mean? Because it gets a lot worse. So for those who's out there that's always worrying about, you know, saying they living hard and life is not, believe me, you got it a lot better than a lot of people around the world. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. Like, people don't understand what third world poverty really means.
No idea.
No idea whatsoever. So you literally had no electricity, no running water at all?
Like none.
So
like,
for you to get water, you'd have to go somewhere?
Yeah, well, the thing is, we got water, but our water came from wells. Like, we had to, you know, walk about a half a mile down and share the well with the community. So we all cooked, washed our clothes, and drank from that same well water.
Wow, you washed your clothes and drank from the same well. That's crazy. So tell me what led to the Akon Lights Africa project.
Well, what led to that was, after the success, you know, my grandparents was, you know, I really say my grandma, 'cause she's the only one that still lives in Kaula, in that same area, you know, and she was one of those kind of people that, like most grandparents, you grow up in a house, they're not leaving that place. They just not. I don't care. You could have a multi-million-dollar mansion waiting for her in the city. She's not going to leave where she's at to go away to the city. Grandparents like to be where they at, where they're comfortable with, an environment where they feel, you know, suitable to be at. But I went to go visit my grandma, and when I got there, you know, she's still pretty much, every time I want to come and try to upgrade her. You know what I mean? But she would never take it. She would never allow me to do anything. She want everything the way it is, because this is what she used to. And one day I said, Mom, I'm not coming to visit you no more. You got at least let me put some electricity in this house. Because there's no way we're in 2010 and there's no electricity in your area. So I said, if anything, if my grandma would probably be the only one with electricity in this area. Come to find out, the grid was so far out that even if I don't care how much money I had, there was no way I could bring electricity to her. You know what I mean? So at that moment, that's when I said, okay, something got to be done about this. There has to be a solution, because now it's not just about my grandma. Everybody in certain rural parts of Africa are experiencing the same thing. You know what I mean? Like, they ain't got no electricity whatsoever. And as you know, without electricity, you can't even begin to develop a country, let alone your own home. You know what I'm saying? So we got to the point where I was like, okay, I just want to figure this out. So I got with a couple partners, you know, billionaire partners of mine that I made friends with throughout my career, and I wanted to build some power plants throughout it, you know, like 5 power plants in all the major areas in Africa that those countries can actually share that power plant. And I also looked at it like a business, because this would be my retirement at the same time too. So as I was getting all the investors together, I started to run into a lot of the politics and energy and oil and all this other craziness, and I started to realize how deep it was, because this is the kind of business that actually starts real wars. So the politics was a little heavier than I expected, you know, and I just started feeling like it was some things happening around me that ain't supposed to be happening. You know?
like what do you mean? Do you mean like?
I mean, think about it. Like,
certain people's in power were in that point and to keep people poor? Is that what you're kind of saying?
Nah, I don't think it keeps people poor, because actually extending the grid actually makes them richer. But the resources wouldn't allow it because of politics specifically. Certain parts of the country being ran by certain countries and dealing with the oil and the allocation of that oil to who it's going to, and so on and so forth. So me building power plants in certain parts would mean that I would have to allocate a certain portion of that oil to keep that fuel burning. So that's when I get into the political aspect that I don't understand well enough. You follow what I'm saying? But to make the long story short, it was just too complicated for me to be dealing with. You know what I'm saying? I'm just an entertainer. I just trying to help, and I don't want to get myself caught into some things that I can't get myself out of. you know. So I said, let me find another solution. And that's when I realized that it was mad other renewable solutions that can actually work. But my thing was, which solution would work out best for me that I could scale for, you know, for all of Africa? Because I wanted to just get all the rural areas specifically where, you know, the major oil companies aren't concentrating in. And plus, these are the areas where the most people need it anyway. And that's when we came with the solution to do solar energy throughout, you know, all the major rural areas. So I went to China, met up with some friends over there, got with some manufacturers, and then, you know, aligned myself with one of the biggest companies in China that's owned by the Chinese government that manufactures solar, you know, plants and solar, you know, lights and all the solar facilities and things of that nature that we could use to cascade back in Africa. Now, the advantages was, and this is what led me to go to China, because China had built a full solar ecosystem for Europe and America. But when Bush was in power, Bush created a 200% tax on all solar or all solar related and renewable energy coming into America. And mainly he did it because he had his agenda was in the oil. He needed the oil to keep burning, right? So anything renewable he wanted to keep away because it affected the money, the business. So he created a 200% tax on all solar coming from China into America. So all that investment, those billions of dollars of investment that China put into this, and they couldn't use it, was just sitting in factories and sitting in China, couldn't be used. So I took advantage of that and went down to China and to partner with some of those companies that couldn't use all that, you know, investment that they already put for Europe and America. And I asked them to be able to apply that into Africa. So they gave me $1 billion credit line to start my project. And that's how it all started.
They gave you $1 billion credit line to light up Africa. How did that feel?
At first I was like, $1 billion? Oh, that's, I'm rich. Then I realized $1 billion ain't shit for what I'm trying to do.
Right, because you're talking about continent. You're not even talking about a city.
Exactly. So we had to prove what we could do with just that $1 billion credit line. So our goal was to electrify 1 million homes within the end of the year. And come to find out, the need of it was so vast, and the kind of contracts and programs that we created was so needed. The governments accepted us perfectly. So we did partnerships with all the government there, did PPPs, and then ultimately we ended up doing. Now we're in like 15 countries in less than 3 years.
Okay, so 15 countries in Africa. Do you remember which countries?
Oh man, we're in Senegal, Ghana, Ivory Coast, Guinea, Gabon, Niger, Guinea-Conakry, Mali. I mean, Ivory Coast, a couple more. Like we pretty much everywhere.
Okay, and how many people now have electricity in their house?
From our program, I think it's probably impacting close to 15, 16 million people now. Easily.
16, wow.
And
so
that's just from the
million
pilots.
People have energy.
Yeah, that's just from the pilots that we put up. Now, once we do the full scaled out programs, which will all be done by the end of next year, 2017, we'll probably be impacting close to 75 to 80 million people.
Like this is a game changer right here.
Oh no, it definitely is. Yep.
Like this is like on a Bill Gates kind of caliber in terms of, you know, I mean, you're like the Bill Gates of Africa.
Well, I mean, that's what it's turning out to be, you know, because we pretty much maximizing all the opportunities, and we really got a hold on solar and renewable energy when it comes to Africa. We're probably the fastest growing solar energy company in the world now because of that. So, and I know all the works that we've done in Africa triggered a lot of the renewable conversations, such as COP21 and all the stuff that you know that the UN is doing. You know, the energy for all. You know, like we've been in the mix of a lot of that stuff, and I know for sure that our efforts and what we're doing in Africa kind of help to contribute to a lot of those efforts that they're doing in those programs.
I mean, you're essentially talking about a continent that's living in like the 1920s.
Yeah,
you know,
that's exactly what it feels like.
Candles and I guess what, like kerosene lamps to light up their house?
Yeah, they still was using kerosene lamps, candles, and coal just for cooking solutions.
Right. I mean, because you're talking about no internet, there's no electricity.
Well, see, now that's the part that gets tricky, because Africa, when it comes to technology, is probably more advanced than anywhere else in the country, but they don't have an infrastructure. So everything in Africa is all mobile based.
Right,
So
it's all cell phones.
Everything. So we just completely skip landlines, skip desktops. We just leapfrogged all the way into today's newest technologies. Like we have programs on our phones in Africa that you can't even have access to in America or Europe because of that. You know what I mean? Like all resources is put into cell phone, developments over there.
You know, I mean, I remember I saw a 60-minute special about how the mobile payment system is huge in Africa.
Yep.
You know, because everyone's got a cell phone, they can just pay for everything using, like you have little kiosks that just accept cell phones.
Exactly. Even my new way of how we launching and distributing music and film and everything is all mobile based for Africa.
No, man, that's amazing. And it's actually just kind of disappointing how little media attention this has gotten.
No, but it's actually good because it's allowing me to put in all the work I need to put in. And then, because believe it or not, had I got all the media attention before I got up and running, I probably wouldn't have been up and running.
Then it's growing.
And it's only growing faster and faster. And I'm glad it happened the way it did because it wasn't like the media blew it up. It was blown up from real work, real solutions and a plan that actually exists that's proven to work in Africa.
That's amazing, man.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And it's like you'll probably be known more for that than for your music.
And that's what I want. Because I always felt like music was always a vehicle for me to do what I was here to do. You know what I'm saying? I always feel like everybody's here has a purpose for why they do what they do or why they're here. But I always felt like music was always that vehicle for me to become whatever it is in life God wanted me to become,
Yeah, and I mean, it's usually when you see people like this that make these type of impacts, they come from rich families and whatever else. Like you were a poor Senegalese kid growing up in a house with no electricity, and now you're lighting up 75 million homes in Africa. That's just mind-blowing.
Yeah, it is crazy. I never thought in my wildest dreams that I'd be involved in energy. I ain't know nothing about energy 5 years ago. Yeah. Like nothing. I was completely, you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah.
Amazing. Now, I remember you had an interview a while back, and you said that America was never built for black people. Mm-hmm. Can you explain that?
I mean, it's just simple. We weren't. I mean, you got to understand, black people were shipped here. It ain't like they chose to be here. Trust me, hadn't they not been brought here, they wouldn't be here. They'd be in Africa right now, and this world probably be totally different as far as what happens. America probably wouldn't exist. The way I see it is, it hurts me and pains me a lot that, African Americans constantly complain about how they're being treated in America and how the laws ain't fair and how it don't fit the minorities when they actually can always just go back home. It's literally as simple as, okay, cool, let me buy a plane ticket and see what opportunities is waiting for me back home in Africa.
Like they want to do it.
But the problem is they've been brainwashed to an extent to where Africa is just almost not even an option. Like you mentioned Africa in the hood, niggas will start shaking. They so afraid because they don't know. Like they have no idea what, Africa has to offer, what the situations come from. So this is why I concentrate a lot of my business even in Africa, because I want them to see the success that comes from Africa and the opportunities that exist in Africa and all these things that being done successfully in America. Africa's wide open to build a platform like that for yourself without no competition. Matter of fact, you will get not only support, but you'll also get, investors that will come on board. Like Africa has, it's probably not only rich in resources, but even rich in capital. It just, because there's no infrastructure system, there's no money count, because these guys carry cash. Majority of my shows, I got more money in Africa just from concerts and music related stuff than I've got in all of the world put together. If I added all the money I made in the United States, in Europe, in China, in Asia, all in one, in India, all that, and added one pot compared to the amount of money that I made in Africa, Africa will probably triple that. And a lot of people don't even know. Wow. Like a lot of people don't know. Like I introduced a lot of people into Africa as far as to what the possibility is. I mean, all the way down to 50, Fat Joe, Ja Rule. I mean, you name it. Like a lot of those guys, and they'll contest to it. I mean, once they tasted a piece of that African money in that brown paper bag or brown garbage bag, Dave was like, yo, we got to stay out here. We got to see what that is. But the opportunities is endless over there, man. And it's a wide open market. It's a virgin territory to where you could do whatever you want to do. Like, imagine me trying to do energy in America. It would never happen. You got Con Edison over here. You got Georgia Power over here. You got Shell. You got Chevron. They would never let me into the business, ever. But I'm in Africa now, and I'm competing with people like Shell, competing with people like Chevron, competing. And not only that, but they got to the point where they just said, you know what? Let's just partner with them, and let's see what we can build together. You know, so that's how open it is. Like even their mentality or how they do business in Europe and America is different from how they do it in Africa, because in Africa it's so open and there's so much money to be made and so much opportunity to be used and shared that there's no biasness. You can just come with your raw skill and clearly create what it is you want to create there and be successful at it.